Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network and the official podcast of Left Wing Lock, your number one source for fantasy hockey intelligence. I'm Devin Davidson, your host. With me, as always, Bruce Gunther, John Enns, and not Tyler tonight. We're not sure where he is, MIA. We hadn't heard anything. I think he has hockey, and he probably told us that, but I don't know.
He'll show up after the ad reads are done.
Yeah, exactly. He's a little bitter about last week. That could be the case.
He hates us.
So there it is. I'm feeling about 1,000,000 times better. At this time last week, John, I think you and I both had one foot in the grave there. I mean, I did anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you to our listeners for bearing with us last week. Bruce, nice work with headlines and the rest of the show where you picked up the slack. And Tyler, even though you're not here, good job with ad reads last week and picking up the slack where you did. This is episode 60, Bruce. 60.
Yeah. Awesome.
If we were Auston Matthews, we'd be all over Twitter.
Oh, what you're not.
Zing. So we're doing something a little bit different this week. Obviously, now that the regular season is complete, it's wrapped up. We're gonna move on from our John. What's that clapping about? Are you happy the regular season is over?
I'm not. I don't want to say it. I'm just so happy that fantasy hockey is over for one more year.
There you go. So we're gonna do a season review or season rewind and our playoff predictions for the 2022 playoffs. I'm excited. So we'll go through our bracket. I should actually maybe pull up my bracket. John, you get yours done. Bruce, you actually managed to finish yours. We won't go through it right now. No.
Okay.
But, that's one thing we're going to get to as part of our playoff preview. We'll go through the bracket challenge.
Mine's still a work in progress.
Still a work in progress. Okay, so we'll give Bruce some time, obviously. For our listeners,
it's not that hard, Bruce. Mine took me about 30 seconds.
There you go. For our listeners, if you want to join, you've got time. They're not locking this in until I think it's the second period of the first game.
That's like cheating.
Yeah, they're actually, it's weird. This year they're giving everybody a chance. So if you don't like your picks after the first period in the first game, you can go make some adjustments.
It still doesn't matter. The Leafs still aren't getting out of the first round.
Yeah, so there you go. Give me 1 second here. All right, so we're good to go there. Let's kick it off. So, John, who's on the list this week?
John had another case of, I forgot all about this guy, but I don't like him. This week's member of the list is Dustin Brown.
Nice.
Congrats on your career. I'm just more excited to see you go.
Yep. Again this week, I'm with you, man.
I don't know, and they're talking all about like jersey retirements and things like that. Like, just because you stuck it out for 18 seasons in one place doesn't mean your jersey goes in the rafters. I don't care.
Well,
isn't it like the last 4 seasons they were figuring out what to do with them?
Yeah, that's just it.
Yeah, exactly. To his credit, he was a big part of those 2 cups in 12 and 14. But we're talking a decade since that first cup.
Yeah, after that, he hasn't done much since, right? So,
but it's the same thing that is happening in Chicago, right? Was that you and I that talking about that, Bruce? I can't remember if it was, but actually, no, I think it was Travis from the Blades because he had stopped by the office that one day. But anyway, Chicago. What do you do with Jonathan Toews, Duncan Keith, Seabrook, Patrick Kane? Like all those guys, they basically kept them around because of the 3 cups, right? Like I think. Had they not won those 3 cups, they would have offloaded those contracts much sooner.
Yeah, if they played in Vegas, they'd have been gone the year after.
Yeah, they would have.
They would have given them away for like a 7th round pick.
Since you brought it up, Bruce, we might as well talk about it.
Oh, we can do it now. I've got something later in the news and notes. We can do it.
Okay. We'll hold off. So Dustin Brown, yeah, John, that's a good one. You're on a roll between Dustin Brown and Ryan Getzlaf.
Of course. Yep.
Good stuff. Okay, won't beat a dead horse there. Of course, I hate that we have to see him in the first round, right? We got to put up with him for one more playoff round anyway.
According to my bracket, he has got 6 games left.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Bruce. I think no, I won't.
And then he's done.
All right, quick fantasy lock of the week, April. Well, that's not even right. This week, whatever this week was, leading up to May 1st, presented by Left Wing Lock. Man, hey, give me a break. I had COVID this week.
We're just a mess.
Steven Stamkos. I know I just gave him fantasy lock of the week last week.
Yeah.
I didn't forget. It's just he also led all players in scoring again this week and was probably the main reason I walked away with 2 fantasy championships this week.
Oh, there it is. There it is. That's the reason.
Yeah, there he is.
It was very painful to watch, I might add.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We won't get into it at the moment. 9 points, 5 goals, 2 game winners, 3 power play points, 16 shots on goal, 74% power play share, and 18.5 minutes time on ice in 3 games played. Like I just said, for the second week, led all skaters in scoring. Over the past 2 weeks, he had a ridiculous 26 points, 10 goals in 10 games.
It's all right.
It's incredible.
It was unreal. Career high, 106 points and 42 goals this season. So good stuff from Steven Stamkos. I think a lot of people had left him for dead after he went down in that one play. It was 2 years ago, their first cup run.
Yeah.
That was pretty much stuff of legend, hey? He comes on for one shift, skates down the wing, snipes
Scores
one,
a goal.
and then gets off the ice, doesn't come
and
back.
Then leaves. Yikes.
All right, honorable mentions. Shane Gostisbehere, 7 points, 2 goals, 1 game winner, 2 power play points, 8 shots on goal. He had a hell of a season. We talked about him lots. So actually, we're going to talk about him again, too, in our Fantasy Heroes and Zeros. If you managed to pick him up, if you listened to our show or followed us on Twitter, you would have seen that we had talked about him a number of times before he kind of became a mainstream pickup, and his production continued throughout the year. The other guy here for honorable mentions is Linus Allmark. He went 2-0-0 this week with 56 saves, 1 shutout, a 1.00 GAA, and a .966 save percentage. I almost put Koskinen in there just to piss off John, but I thought, nah, I won't do that.
I was going to say, you really going to do that to me?
Oh, hey, look, we got Tyler on.
Wow.
Hi.
What is that noise?
I was not expecting. Yeah, Tyler, you're on your laptop mic again. FYI.
Bye, Felicia.
Big grits. Yeah, thanks for jumping on.
He's like, yeah, no, I'm not going back on.
Yeah, I'm done.
When he comes back on, we tell him it's just in time for the ad read.
Oh, jeez.
I dare you to do it. It's going to be great.
I'm willing to bet he didn't get his bracket finished, but
he's going to be that guy who waits until the second period of that first game.
He probably will. Yeah,
100% he will. That's the way he rolls.
For betting purposes, it makes sense. Get the latest information. Why not? I guess while he's doing that, I should probably make some adjustments to my dates here. Hey.
Oh, are you cutting this all out of the...
I don't know. We'll probably just let it ride, honestly.
Yeah, let it ride.
Let it ride, man. Who cares? I mean, people...
I was going to say, people don't expect any better out of us. Like,
they're gonna jump past this, honestly, if they... We're not talking about much at the moment, to be honest, but... okay, I got that fixed. Let's move on then. That's Fantasy Lock of the Week, presented by Left Wing Lock. Let's move on to headlines with the Hacks, news and injury updates for April 25th to May 1st. And, of course, new to headlines, Bruce, this is your baby. Bruce and I chatted. He's doing all the notes and research for headlines now, and we decided that Bruce was going to read the headlines as well, and I'm just going to sit back and shut up for a while. So, Bruce, take it away.
Bruce is actually going to read the headlines?
Bruce, and yes, he is.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Tyler.
And look, Tyler's back just in time for the ad read.
See you guys.
No, not really. We're just
really.
moving on to headlines. So thanks for joining us.
Did you see someone sent a chat in too?
Actually,
Actually.
Oh, man.
We're going to leave that one. All right. Well, Tyler, we're glad you could make it, my friend. I was just joking. I said you probably didn't get your bracket done. Did you get your bracket done?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I've known this guy since he was 5. I figured that. Okay, so Tyler, you've got until tomorrow night at first intermission to get that in.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
He's like, I'm just going to put my phone away.
He doesn't even have to check his lineup. We're done. So he's got all sorts of time.
I've been done for a while.
We're going to talk about that later, but you missed it. Since Bruce is doing all the headlines research and everything anyway, he's taking over headlines now for the future, moving forward. So headlines is Bruce's baby. We're going to let him roll with it, and we'll just chime in as we see fit.
Great.
Sounds good. All right, for the news this week, NHL Stars of the Week for April 18th to 24th, as aforementioned Steven Stamkos, 13 points, 4 goals, 9 assists in 4 games. For the second week in a row, Kevin Fiala, 11 points, 4 goals, 7 assists in 4 games. And the goaltender the Oilers will be facing in the first round, Jonathan Quick, 3-0-0 record, 1.33 goals against average, and a .940 save percentage. Not bad for those 3 guys. As again mentioned before, Steven Stamkos hit the 100-point mark for the first time in his career. He come close a few times in 2009 and 10. He hit 95 points. 2010, 2011, 91 points. 2011, 2012 was 97. And 2018, 2019 at 98. So a few near misses, and he finally made it over the hump. There's some guy named Auston Matthews. Won't really remember him. He scored 60 goals this season.
Only heard about him a number of times.
Quiet as 60 goals in Leafs history, I'm sure.
No.
Also, the first American-born player to score first American-born player in the NHL to score 60 goals.
So on that note, I've seen some comments on social media asking, is Auston Matthews now the greatest American-born player in history?
Patty Kane says hi.
I'm with John. For me, it's still Patrick Kane.
I think so.
If Matthews can win a few cups, then he'll change my mind. But
yeah, I think so. He might get there statistically, but yeah, he needs to win a Stanley Cup or 2. Well, they need to get out of a round of the playoffs before you really start considering anything.
Agreed.
Okay, moving on. Quinn Hughes set a Canucks record for most points by a defenseman with 64. Actually, I think he got a couple more than that, but passing Doug Lister, who had 63. UC Saros exited Tuesday night's game, the lower body injury. The update to that is it's an ankle sprain, so they said 4 to 6 weeks, so that pretty much puts him out of the first round of the playoffs. And as Daryl Sutter said, it's going to be how did he word that? The worst 8 days, or the wasted 8 days of a team season. Yeah. Playing Colorado in the first round, so that's only going to go 4 games.
We'll talk about that in the playoff predictions, Bruce, but it's a lopsided prediction.
It's ugly in the way of Colorado.
Yeah. We'll get into it.
Jason Robertson scored his 40th goal on Monday, becoming the 4th player in Dallas Stars history to score 40 goals in a season, joining Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Mike Modano. Pierre-Luc Dubois scored a personal best of 28 goals this season. He's been a bright spot in an otherwise down year for the Jets. Joe Pavelski with 81. I think he actually has 83 now, I think, is what he ended up with. Became the 3rd player in NHL history to set a career high in points at age 37 or older, joining Gordie Howe and the Tim Horton. It's a pretty nice company.
No kidding.
And now my favorite part of the week. The Vegas Golden Knights were eliminated from playoff contention on Wednesday night.
Yes.
Vegas lost 3 games in a row in the shootout. They went a collective 0-17 in the shootout. As my comment says, what a train wreck. And then they come out the next night after they're eliminated and they all can score suddenly.
I was just going to comment, Bruce. I've got Eichel in 2 leagues, and he was a ghost for a week and a half when they actually had to win.
Yeah.
And then he had 2 goals and an assist after they had been eliminated.
Yeah. And Stone was still non-existent. I don't think Stone's healthy. I don't think he's anywhere near healthy.
Agreed. They're trying to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah. They did the cap magic to get him back in the lineup, but I don't think he's anywhere near healthy.
No, agreed.
All right. Moving on. David Pasternak and Johnny Gaudreau became the 15th and 16th players of the season to score 40 goals. The Florida Panthers secured the President's Trophy for the first time in franchise history. They've also secured home ice advantage for the playoffs. The Carolina Hurricanes secured the Jennings Trophy for fewest goals allowed in the season. Not bad for a washed-up goalie, according to the Toronto media.
Not too bad.
Not too bad at all. On Friday, the NHLPA voted to create a committee to start looking for the successor to Donald Fehr. The committee consists of 7 current players: Ian Cole, Justin Falk, Sam Gagner, Zach Hyman, Kyle Okposo, Nate Schmidt, and Kevin Shattenkirk. The goal is to have a peaceful transition after the last 4 PA leaders have been fired. Excuse me. There is no timeline set for Fehr to be replaced. I think they're going to have an update in July.
He'd been in that position for quite some time, though, Bruce, right?
13 years,
yeah.
I think, is what I read. He's been there for a while. And they have been on him for a succession plan for a couple of years now, and he's sidestepped it all the time. So now they're pretty much forcing.
Well, I thought the straw that broke the camel's back was the Kyle Beach situation.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of came back and said that there was nothing they could have done, where I think there probably was something they probably could have done better to help him out, but didn't. Yeah. Next on the list here, Detroit Red Wings have parted ways with coach Jeff Blashill. He spent seven seasons behind the bench, with a record of 204, 261, and 72. The Red Wings have missed the playoffs the last 6 seasons, so really wasn't too much of a surprise to see him go. They let 2 assistants go along with him too, where their contracts were not renewed.
Got a clean house.
Yeah. The surprise for me of the week was Friday night's game versus the Florida Panthers, Carey Price's last game in the NHL. In his media availability, he said he prepared for the game as if it was possibly going to be his last game in the NHL. His knee is still giving him problems and is keeping him from performing at the level he wants to. He's going to get a second opinion this summer on his knee. Carey said he's not giving up on playing again. However, he is prepared that he may have played his last game in the NHL. So that was a bit surprising for me that he was open about that.
What a bombshell to drop.
Yeah, exactly right.
I thought it was interesting actually that he played it all. We knew it was bad, and Montreal's in no position to win. They're not going anywhere. Why do you even play?
Yeah. I went through kind of the Twitter feed of Montreal's availability, and Hughes even said his knee is not 100%, but Carey wanted to play. He wanted to get some games in here at the end of the season, and kind of based on the score in the last game of the season that he played in, it was 10-1 for Montreal. Yeah. The team wanted to get him a win, to send him out on a win, just in case this may be his last game.
I feel like he was,
and they kind of
maybe. Sorry, Bruce. I feel like he was maybe testing it a bit too, right?
Yeah.
Like he's trying to see where his knee's at. I wonder if that's part of it.
Well, he had mentioned too that he doesn't have the mobility and the things that he said he needs to do to make saves in the crease for the game now. He is not fully capable of doing that. So, but it was there was some pretty interesting stuff that come out of there. So
it makes sense though. Like when you look back at the Seattle expansion draft, and then they had an opportunity to grab him, but they looked at his medical records and said no thanks. Like I understand that he's not a young player anymore, but when you have a chance to grab a guy like Carey Price, and you don't do it, there's obviously an issue there.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not his last game, but you just right now you just don't know, right? Like you said, he's not getting any younger, and the knee's not responding the way they had hoped.
No.
So
Well, and even in that player poll, that NHLPA poll that just came out, I think they voted Carey Price as the goalie they'd like to have for one game, right?
Yeah.
Players did. So yeah, it'd be sad if it was his last game. He's had a really nice career so far.
yeah, missed that elusive Stanley Cup. They got close, but
Well, him and Shea Weber,
toughest
right?
one
That
to
was kind
win.
of their swan song, if that's
Yeah.
the case.
yeah, exactly right. All right, last one in the list. Spencer Knight is the NHL Rookie of the Month for April. 6-1-0 record, 2.16 goals against average, and a .925 save percentage with 1 shutout.
Should have tried playing like that for the rest of the year.
Oh, that's why he's on my fantasy
Bob
zero
didn't-
list, John.
Good.
You'll be happy to know he really came through for me this past week, actually.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
Just had to push up my glasses there.
I saw that. I did notice that. Tyler, I couldn't help but notice your microphone. Have you been gnawing on it? Like, what's going
Like,
on there?
what
my
is
friend?
up with that thing?
It's a cat. It's a fucking cat. I leave it and I come back and there's a new chunk out of it. So we're just gonna roll with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Pets are bad.
they're so bad.
Next week, the cat's going to be on the podcast.
Oh man.
Or in a hole.
So
I'm just gonna spin this around here.
Oh, boy.
all right, this episode of Fantasy Hockey Hacks is brought to you in part by Amazon.ca. So we are now an affiliate partner of Amazon.ca.
Oh, I ordered something today.
Did you?
I did, and I used the link and everything.
That a boy.
I didn't know about it, but I ordered something too.
Okay, well now you know. So guys, if you're a listener of the show, everyone who's our host as well, if you're planning on ordering some stuff through Amazon, if you like the show, if you want to show some support, please use our affiliate links. We do make a small commission on it. But we've also got, as part of that program, we've got access to some good deals that we kind of like to share from time to time.
We have access to deals.
Well, there's some promotions that you may not otherwise know about. So one such promotion right now is, as a new Amazon Music Unlimited subscriber, you can receive 6 months of Disney Plus for free.
Wow.
For free. So if you like music, you like movies, it's a pretty good deal. Users that sign up for an Amazon Music Unlimited subscription, starting at $7.99 per month for Prime members, $9.99 for non-Prime members, will have access to Disney Plus for 6 months. It renews automatically. New subscribers only. Terms and conditions apply. The Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast is an affiliate partner of Amazon.ca. As an affiliate, the Hacks will bring you the latest deals and promotions from the world's largest online retailer. If you enjoy and appreciate the podcast, guys, please support us by using our affiliate link before making your purchases on Amazon. No hidden fees or additional costs to you. Just a simple, free way to show your support.
Where can we find the affiliate link?
So the affiliate link's going to be in our show notes. So whatever podcast directory you listen on, the link will be in there. It's also going to be on our website at fantasyhockeyhacks.com. I'm probably going to work on some sort of a partners page for the website as well, because we've got a few different partnerships, and if people do want to take advantage of some of the deals we've got going on, I'll probably put them there with all the information.
Coolio, because I was just ripping through the chat before, just trying to find the link, because I was like, oh, I gotta buy it with the link.
Yep, there you go. So and we've already had a few purchases via the link, so we appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
John, what did you buy?
I bought a new phone case.
All right. All right.
I'm not a big spender today.
Here, I thought it might be handcuffs.
Oh.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm just gonna mute my mic.
Well
Shoot.
played. Yeah. Well played, Bruce. Well played.
Thanks, Bruce.
No problem.
All right, let's move on to the next segment, which I've been waiting for. And Tyler, I'm glad you showed up for it. The 2021-2022 Fantasy Hockey Season Review.
Who
Starting
cares?
with the results. So FHHL, our inaugural season, the podcast league. First of all, thank you to everyone that did participate in the league. It was a lot of fun.
Except Lauren.
I did win. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not going to brag about it. It happened.
Not gonna brag about it. Get
I'm
real.
not gonna brag about it. Yeah.
God.
Not too much. Honorable mention goes to Bruce, who, hey man, you had a great season. Was this the league that you were 5-7?
No, that was
Timo.
Timo.
Okay, so either way, Bruce had a great season, made it in the final here. Got to give an honorable mention to Taylor Kuzek, our buddy Taylor, who actually finished third in the final standings in our FHHL league. So that's great. I don't know if he's ever finished that high, Tyler, in either league.
No, or in anything. So good for him. I hope he listens to this.
Bunch of jerks.
So the story goes, Bruce and I actually met up in 3 different matchups or finals this year. So in our FHHL podcast league, Bruce and I wound up in the final. Final score there was 486 to 453. We met up in our Timo league, which Tyler, you and I have been playing in since 2015 or 2014. So Bruce and I met in that final as well. I ended up winning that one. Sorry, Bruce. I was pulling for you, man, in one of these. I was hoping you'd get one this year, but
The score wasn't pretty.
no, this one was particularly ugly. What was it, 221 to 164? Your team kind of just spit the bit at the end there.
It took the week off.
So honorable mention to Bruce, obviously, and then to Luke Tony's. How do you say that name there, Tyler?
I don't know. Toonies.
I don't know. Anyway, so he finished third in Timo as well. I have to say, this is probably for me my best individual fantasy season this year. Like I collectively in 2 leagues lost 7 matchups. That's pretty good.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah.
I'm just happy I managed to pull back from being like 0-6 or 1-7 or whatever it was. So
Yeah.
to make playoffs made me happy, but yeah, then it just went downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the one where I lost 7 of the first 12 and then went on a run after that.
So for you to be in the final, you were pretty pumped, regardless.
Yeah, when I was sitting 12 weeks in at 5-7, I'm like, oh crap! Like,
And
that's always
in,
next
in
year.
that league, you were right there. Like I think I was only 20 points up going into the final day,
Yeah.
and then
It'll
I
fall apart.
made my comment about your one Kucherov's hat trick from being right back in this thing, and then it
Yeah.
turned out the Stamkos
And then-
scored a hat trick that night.
Yeah. And Kucherov sat on the bench.
Anyway, so I've said it a few times on Twitter and on here. Steven Stamkos is my fantasy hockey playoffs MVP this year. And Tyler, to quote Family Guy, "Where's my money, man?"
As soon as Lauren sends over his portion, I can disperse after.
Oh God.
Commish is a crook.
So never.
Well, you better talk to him. It's a new rule going forward.
Okay. We'll get into it later. With that, let's move on to our next sub-segment here, Fantasy Hockey Heroes. So the following are some players that outperformed this past season based on their ADP and or past performance. I just want to have this kind of be conversational, guys. We can talk about whatever players you want. For our listeners, if you want to see the full list, it's on fantasyhockeyhacks.com. We're going to start it off here with Nasm Cadre, ADP of 133.3, and he actually ended up being 19th in league scoring. Had a career-high 85 points. I mean, well documented how well he did this year. I was so down on him after last season, where he had 32 points and 11 goals in 56 games. He was just awful. He was one of those guys I had on my roster forever and ended up dropping him towards the end of the season. I said I wasn't going to draft him this year, obviously didn't. And I want to say, was he a waiver wire pickup in both of our leagues this past fall?
I'm not even.
He
sure.
was in one for sure, but... So, the fantasy hockey hero, he's one of those guys, if you had drafted him or picked him up off the wire early, your team probably did well, at least leading up to the back half of the season.
For sure.
I mean, for him next year, though, you don't want to draft too early, right? Like, I don't think he's going to replicate what we saw. We've talked about him at length about his ish, how it was very high, it was very iffy. And some of his underlying metrics were not so good.
If he doesn't re-sign with Colorado, he doesn't repeat these numbers. There's no chance he repeats those numbers.
Do we see him re-signing in Colorado, or do you think he's going to move on?
Depends on whether he wants to win a Stanley Cup or whether he wants to get paid.
Get paid.
Yeah, I think he's going to get paid.
Where's he going, Tyler?
I don't know. Seattle has lots of money.
If I'm Cadre, I'm not going there.
No, not if you want to win, that's for sure.
All right. Matt Duchene is the other guy I want to talk about here.
Wowzers.
Yeah. What a season for that guy, hey?
He turned back the clock.
So 6 goals in 34 games last season. His career high in points before this year was 70, and goals was 31. So he went off for 43 goals and 43 assists. Tyler, I know you grabbed him in.
And Timo, yeah.
Was it our podcast league or Timo?
Yeah, Timo.
Timo. Because I had him in the other league. I think I dropped him in the league you picked him up in, and I just thought there's no way he's going to go off this year the way he did, but he carried some teams to success this year. No question about that.
Not mine.
He sure did.
Well, his ADP was 150, so I think most guys probably did pick him up off the wire or drafted him late, right? But
yeah. Well, based on last year, I don't think anyone was going to pick him early.
No, absolutely not.
But it's kind of strange this year with basically with everybody's numbers being inflated. Like the amount of goals this year was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was crazy. How many guys scored 40 goals, Bruce? Like you'd mentioned 16 for sure.
16.
Yeah.
16.
Has that ever happened? I don't know if that's ever happened before. 16 guys, like maybe in the 80s, but
Yeah. Was that, and then for players that had scored 30-plus goals, it was a huge number. It was in the 30s, I think.
And the amount of players, too,
It's just a ton of goals.
with 100 points, like, that never happens. I don't know how many there was. I think there was over 10, though, I think.
Well, for 30 goals, there's over 50.
no way, really?
Yeah, like I'm
That's
on
incredible.
the one site here, and yeah, they have 50th goal 50th position as Huberdeau and a bunch of other guys at 30.
Yeah.
And then for 100-point seasons, there was 8. And then JT Miller was 1 short.
Yeah, lots of guys had career years. Like Huberdeau, nobody saw him putting up the points he did. Johnny Gaudreau.
Sure
like
did.
I didn't actually list Johnny Gaudreau here, but nobody saw him scoring over 100 points this year. I think JT Miller, we all kind of knew he had the potential to if things went the right way, but just a little bit shy.
Yossi ended up with 96.
That's crazy.
It's incredible.
I really wanted him to get to 100.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Or-
he should have a case anyway to be nominated for the Hart, but if he puts up 100 points as a defenseman,
He had more
he makes a really good case for MVP.
points than Kane
That's crazy.
and Ovechkin and McKinnon and Barkov.
Tyler loves Roman
Yeah,
Josi.
I sure do. Yeah.
Do you have him in both leagues, Tyler?
No.
Okay. I was going to say no one's going to have a chance at him because Tyler's going to keep him next year,
So I would.
at least in one league.
Probably.
The other guy this year was Robert Thomas. We talked about him lots. We were beating that drum for weeks before he got really hot, and he wound up with 20 goals and 77 points, which was 37th in league scoring, and I'm quite certain he was waiver wire fodder for most of the year.
Yeah, he wasn't drafted by anybody.
So good stuff there. I mean, his shot volume, Mike talked about his shot volume in the past. We've talked about it a little bit too. But down the stretch here, like during the month of April, he had 23 points and 7 goals in 16 games, and his shot volume did improve. I think, John, you had mentioned that a couple weeks ago as well. Like he was putting up somewhere between 2 or 3 and 5 shots a game, right? And that's another guy, like him and Tarasenko actually were two other guys that were sort of worthy of fantasy hockey MVP, I think, over the past few weeks.
Yeah, because no one really knew what to expect out of Tarasenko coming back off of his injury.
So, Tyler, good on you for grabbing him late in the draft last year.
Yep. I dropped him, though. That was pretty stupid.
I want to say thank you for that.
I think
The assist goes to you.
I think I actually just pushed the wrong button. I think that's what happened.
We'll say that's what it was.
Yeah.
Chris Kreider, ADP of 152, scored a career-high 52 goals and 77 points. He was 39th in NHL scoring. If I had said to you at the start of the season that he was scoring more goals than Ovechkin this year, would you believe me?
Nope.
Yeah, because Ovechkin's trash.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
Here we go.
No, crazy stuff from Kreider and the Rangers in general.
Where do you have them in your bracket?
Well, we'll talk about that in detail, but I've got them making it actually to the Eastern Conference Final.
What?
Me too.
Yeah.
Against Tampa?
I do. We won't get into it too much.
Okay.
We'll spend a whole segment on it. But
Okay.
Anyway, won't go there.
Okay.
Just some of the Rangers though. Like it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about that letter that they sent out to season ticket holders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they turned this one around quickly, surprisingly quick. So, and they've got more guys coming. Like, can you imagine what that team's going to look like if they can ever get Capo, Kako, and Lafreniere producing at the rate they should be?
That's scary.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, they jump-started it when they signed Panarin, right? And then Adam Fox and Shesterkin have been two very, very pleasant surprises for them, right?
Well, they're set at every position, right, Bruce? Like they've got a great center in Zibanejad. They've got Panarin on the wing. They've got Chris Kreider, who can score goals, obviously, and Adam Fox is a phenomenal defenseman, and then they're set in goal. Like I'm keeping Shesterkin next year, just so you guys know. You will not be getting him in the podcast league.
Yeah. Kind of thinking the same thing in Timo. I might keep him as well.
I think you have to. But
I know who two of my three keepers are. I haven't figured out the third
You get
one
three
yet,
keepers?
you get 3 keepers.
What?
Yeah.
I forgot that we were doing keepers.
We sure are, buddy. Make sure you set those. They got to be set 1 hour before the draft next year.
I'm going to keep Gino.
Of course you are.
Oh, man.
The other guy, too, that was big this year, early in the season anyway, was Timo Meyer. ADP of around 150, scored 35 goals and 76 points. He was 42nd in league scoring. Yeah, just a great performance from him all around on a mediocre team at best. He had that 5-goal performance against the Kings on January 17th. Pretty good season from him.
You bet.
Bruce, this guy, you had him on your one league, or your one team. It was Tage Thompson.
Yeah, in the podcast league. Yeah.
38 goals.
Hell of a season.
38 goals. Like, nobody saw that coming. Another one of those situations where completely undrafted player, and he wound up almost inside the top 50 in league scoring.
Yeah, we just expected him to suck every week, so we're like, no, don't hold him and whatever, and then he just kept doing it, so.
I'm just pulling up his numbers here. Prior to this season, Bruce, his career high was 8 goals.
Yeah. He obliterated that.
Yeah.
But even everything, you look at Buffalo as a whole right now. You look at Thompson, Skinner refound his form. You've got Tuck.
Even Olofsson.
Who's the other? Olofsson. Like, that very easily made them go Jack Eichel basically, in Buffalo. It's like...
Dahlin had a great year. I think he set...
Dahlin had a great year.
Points.
A good feel-good story is Anderson as well. Had a good season considering he's pushing 40. It's
Owen Power looked pretty good in a limited sample size.
Yeah, they've got some great things to look forward there coming up for Buffalo.
Yeah, for sure they do.
They're going to make a few teams nervous next season.
All right, how are we feeling about Evander Kane right now?
Big help for the Oilers on the ice.
Like,
Off the ice so far, he's kept his nose clean. So, but on the ice, he's been spectacular.
Was that the best deadline? I'm using air quotes. Was that the best deadline acquisition this season?
Easily.
I'd say so.
Easily, yeah.
I think so.
And by all reports, it sounds like they're trying hard to lock him up.
I think they should.
I agree.
I know a lot of the fans are going to hate all the off-season crap that he brings, the baggage that he brings with him, but it's hard not to when you see what he can do on the ice. On the ice, well, you look at it, like 43 games, 38 points, and 22 goals in just basically half a season.
Yeah, he was on pace for, well, whatever that. I have to do the math on that, but like I think they said 40 goals or something, roughly 40 goals, right? It's.
Oh yeah, it'd be roughly 40 goals and 77 points. Like that's fantastic.
And for me, what's important is that he brings size and he brings some grit. Like that's something that's been missing from that team.
Yeah. Absolutely. He's kind of dragged everyone into that too, right? You see everyone's being a little more physical and that's good to see because they're going to need it coming up here in the playoffs.
I think that means
some swagger.
I think that means that
definitely
Yamamoto probably leaves this offseason, but
so that's kind of some of the weirdness that's been going on with the Edmonton media, right? They've been sort of pitting Yamo and Puljujarvi against each, like they've been comparing those two guys, and guys like Jim Matheson are saying, well, Yamamoto scored 20 and JP scored 14, whatever. Like, but I don't look at it that way, right? Like, I'd love to keep both players. If you can keep both players, you do. They bring different things. Puljujarvi, he's so effective, forechecking and back-checking, turning over pucks, cycling the puck, retrieving the puck for McDavid and for Kane, right? Like that's, you look at the numbers. If you look at the advanced numbers for Puljujarvi, for McDavid with and without him,
the Wowies,
they're far better for Connor with JP.
The Wowies.
Yeah, you look at the Wowies and he makes a difference.
I think it's just cap wise because you got to sign JP, you got to sign Yamo, and you got to sign Kane. And I don't think you can move Cassian and Barry, which I think happen anyways.
Yeah,
but even then, they're going to be probably 1 or 2 year deals for Yamamoto if he's going to sign it. And at 20 goals, what's that look like? That's probably close to 3, you would think. 2.5.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be tough. And I think Kane's probably going to be 3 or 4 years, probably $6 million, probably in there.
Yeah, I think they want to try and get him for 3 is what I keep hearing.
He's probably going to want 5.
God, if they could do that, that would be incredible.
Well, and I think Kane would look at it too and go, look, could I make 8 somewhere else? Possibly.
Yeah, but he might need to.
But at the end of the day, does he want to win? Like he actually seems like he's fit in really well in Edmonton and he enjoys playing there. He likes being with McDavid and like that. This team is close, right? And they look like they're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that factors into it. But you're right, Tyler. Like there's some cap gymnastics that are going to happen for them to keep everybody. And
have to hire the Vegas capologist to make it work in Edmonton.
I don't think
get him to come and do
Holland's
his voodoo
not
magic.
the guy for that. So
I guess time will tell. Part of that equation might be they bring back Smith next year. You might have a Smith-Skinner tandem in goal.
Holy hell.
It's possible. That's very possible.
I hope not.
I think that's a very realistic possibility, honestly.
I think so too.
If you want to keep that forward group intact, I don't know. We'll see what happens. This guy, Devon Toews, ADP of 139.6. He had 13 goals, 57 points, which put him at 92nd overall in league scoring as a defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche.
Not bad for 2 second-round picks.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pick him up. I should have picked him up in our podcast league. I had a couple chances to, didn't do it. Like, he's never done this, right? He's never been close, but if you were smarter than me, good on you. Mo Seider, Tyler's favorite player. Beauty, yep. Come on, you love Mo
Calder Trophy
Seider.
I
winner.
do. Not as much as you, but
How can you not love Mo Seider?
well, I do, but not
Yeah,
Just not as much as you.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
relax.
He's good. He's not that good.
I just like the swagger the kid plays with. Like, he hits everything and doesn't give a shit. Doesn't care who you are. I will run you through the boards. And to put up 50 points and be a top-pairing defenseman this year, like, I don't see how he doesn't win the Calder, but I've seen stranger things.
That is true, but he's put together a season that it shouldn't even be close.
I don't know. There's probably some 25-year-old out there somewhere who'll take it.
Some old man.
Yep.
26, actually.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. The Toronto media will boost that one for sure, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if Bunting wins the Calder. And then we'll be back here next fall talking about how we hate it, just like we hated Kaprizov and just like we hated Panarin.
Still hate them.
Yep.
I was actually going to put Panarin on the list this week, but we can do that next week.
All right, fair enough.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Tyler, you're going to hate this one, but Jacob Markstrom is on my fantasy heroes list.
Gross.
ADP of 134.4. You actually drafted him, Tyler, so you can't even be that upset that
I'm
he's
not.
here.
I took him in both leagues.
You drafted him?
Yep.
Wow.
In both leagues.
Yep.
You sniped him from me in both leagues. That was my next pick, I think, in both leagues, and you grabbed him when you did. So
I drafted him 109.
Are you keeping him?
No. I'm not keeping
You
any
don't keep him next
goalies.
year?
No.
Okay, fair enough. He had 37 wins, which was fourth in the NHL, and a .922 save percentage, which was third. His first season wasn't great. He had a 22-19 and 2 record in Calgary with a 2.68 GAA and a .904 save percentage. But this year, 37-15-9 with a 2.22 GAA and a .922 save percentage and a 19.11 goals saved above average. And his 9 shutouts led all goaltenders this year. So he's got to be a Vezina finalist.
I would think so.
Like, it's got to be him, Shesterkin, and
Freddie Anderson.
Anderson. Yeah. Or Mike Smith.
Shut up. No.
Who's your other pick then, John?
Anybody but him.
No. I mean, like, serious, not Mike Smith, obviously, but like Markstrom's on a Vezina finalist for you?
I don't know. I really want to say no. No, he played well. Yeah.
But just because he's a Flame, we won't give him credit.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. We'll move on then. This guy, I've been beating this guy's drum last summer. It was Tristan Jarry, and you guys thought I was full of shit. I'm still going to bring that up again because he had a great season despite his injury here late in the year. 60 games, 34, 18, and 6 record with 4 shutouts, a 2.42 goals against average, and a .919 save percentage. Pretty good value for a guy that was drafted on average in the 10th round of drafts.
It still makes a pretty terrible first pass out of the zone.
You're never going to let that go, hey, Bruce? One time he does. One time he loses a game in the playoffs. And
It's almost bad as that Ty Conklin pass in the finals.
Almost as bad. Oh, don't remind Tyler. I'm pretty sure he cried after Game 7.
I did for years after.
For years. We're still crying about
Still
it.
crying about it.
All right, that does it for Fantasy Hockey Heroes. Let's move on to Fantasy Hockey Zeros. Players that underperformed this past season based on their ADP and or past performance. This list is a little bit shorter, and there's lots of guys I left out for Fantasy Hockey Heroes, but
There's a lot of... Yeah.
yeah, and even for the zeros, there's guys I left out, but in the interest of time, we'll move along. The New York Islanders are the first one on this list. Pretty massive disappointment from them in most aspects. Fifth in the Metro, -8 goal differential, 36, 34, and 10. Did they not make the Eastern Conference Final last spring?
Yep. They took then they took Tampa to
Yeah.
7.
And I know they were a pick for a lot of people. I think myself included. I think I had them going to the Cup final this year. Not even close. Not even a sniff.
Nope.
How many games are they on the
Although,
road, though, to start the season? It was like
17.
17? 17, wow.
I think they got COVID after that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Although Sorokin carved himself out a nice little season.
T-
His final numbers were he had a goals against average of 2.4, which puts him 4th in the league, and a save percentage of .925, which puts him 2nd in the league.
He did have a good season, actually.
So not too bad considering the way the Islanders went as a whole.
Yeah, the wins kind of left you wanting for him this year, right? Like, in general.
Yeah, they just no run support, right?
Yeah, but he's a phenomenal goalie. Like,
Did you just make a baseball reference on a hockey podcast?
Maybe.
You're the worst.
it's okay, it can happen.
No.
The other
No.
fantasy hockey zero, the Vegas Golden Knights, 42, 31, and 8, 4th in the Pacific, plus 15 goal differential. I think the entire hockey world was cheering against them. It was pretty fun to watch, actually.
It was media and fans alike were all just piling on.
Even players from other teams were apparently rooting against, like teams that had no interest in whether or not they made it were just, they had watch parties apparently. There were some teams that had watch parties just to see Vegas fail.
I love it.
Well, look at Timo Meyer, right? Before the game, he calls it out, and then he goes and scores the goal, basically the goal that puts him under, right?
Well, and all the nonsense that was going on with San Jose in general. The Jumbotron, the first letter of every word.
Yeah. I had to read that a couple times. I couldn't figure it out, and then I saw one of the comments in the back and read it. Like, holy crap! It's like that's bold. That's
Pretty
bold.
funny, but you know what? Totally justified given the way that the Vegas had treated their players, specifically Marc-Andre Fleury, the cap circumvention that had gone on, just all the nonsense, right? I mean, this team went from being extremely likable their first season or two to just a team that nobody wants anything to do with.
Yeah, pretty much, right? I think, well, part of it was this, but for a lot of fans and for me, it's the way they treated Fleury. Like, that's just...
I think for John, that was probably the turning point right there.
Like, it's just, And someone posted, too, so in the second half of the season, Buffalo had a better record than Vegas did. Better win-loss record than Vegas in the second half.
Poor Jack Eichel, hey?
Yeah, Buffalo's on their way up and Vegas is on the way down. Welcome, Jack. Your lead weight is waiting for you in your locker.
Connor Hellebuck. Who had Connor Hellebuck here?
I did. In our Yahoo league, I had him.
ADP of 25.1.
I didn't take him that high.
He still had 28 wins, which was 13th, so not terrible, but his save percentage was 33rd in the league. So, given that information, I'd say Nate's 0G draft strategy probably makes some sense. I don't know. What do you think, Bruce?
Well, that's I followed it in the podcast league to a certain extent, and it did very well
in the
for
final.
Me. So, yeah, can't complain about that. So
I will say I sort of took a modified approach to it. I didn't go full 0G or anything, but I did fade goaltenders in most of my drafts this year. And Tyler, you did too to some degree, and you end up with Markstrom. That was a pretty good snag.
Markstrom and Bobrovsky too, in both leagues, I think.
Yeah.
But didn't do anything for me, but they played well, so that's good.
And meanwhile, guys, my trophy case is starting to get pretty full.
Shut up. Move on.
Oh, shut up.
Oh, good grief.
Nobody cares. Just a jerk.
I gotta play it up a little bit. I mean, you guys,
We're gonna
if I
use a
make it
leaf
too
blower.
easy for you.
No, you don't.
We're gonna use the leaf blower on your office tomorrow. I've done it before. I'll do it again.
I will be back in the office, so I'll expect papers everywhere.
Good.
All right, let's move on then. Dougie Hamilton has to be one of the biggest fantasy hockey zeros this season. I know I drafted him into one league. ADP of 45.7. He had just 29 points on the year. He was 290th in NHL scoring. I know he missed a chunk of time due to injury.
Well, before his injury, he was doing Dougie Hamilton things, and then he had his injury, and then after that, he just wasn't. He wasn't the same.
Well, yeah, he was doing pretty good early on in the year, but the thing is, he was still doing some Dougie Hamilton things. Like his shot volume was great. He was shooting 3, 4, 5 shots a game. And then towards the end there, too, he was getting the majority of the power play time, but he just wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So, given where he was drafted, he's a pretty massive disappointment in general, especially like down the stretch and going into the playoffs.
I'd probably just still take him in that same spot next year, though.
I think you're right. Like I'll agree to some extent, Tyler, that he's going to be better next year. I don't think he'll
Well, I think he has
be quite
to be.
so bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. 45.7 still seems high, given that things could change next year. I don't know. It's his first year there too. Like guys take some time to adjust. He had an injury. We saw Jack Hughes. If Jack Hughes is healthy all season, and if Hamilton's healthy all season,
that'll help Hamilton a lot.
Something to keep in mind. I guess don't panic on him, right? But
yeah, I think most will look at it as a one-off, and they, like Tyler said, I don't think they'll have any trouble drafting him at the same level next season.
No.
If next season is a down, then they might take a step back. But I don't think he's done anything this season that will curb anyone from taking him lower next year.
Yeah, but for the purposes of this season, he's a fantasy hockey zero. John Spencer Knight, not to rub salt in the wound, buddy, but ouch. ADP of 84.4, 18 wins, which was 32nd, and a 905 save percentage, which was 41st. He was actually fantastic in April. I think was he the rookie of the month in April,
yeah.
Bruce? Is that what you would?
Yeah, he sure is.
And that was the problem. He was the rookie of the month in April, but the rest of the year he's kind of lackluster.
Well, part of the issue was he didn't play as much as anyone expected him to.
Yep.
And when he did, he was
Bob actually played well.
Like he was pretty bad early, right?
Yeah.
And John, you held on to him for probably the first 2 months of the season.
I've held on to him for I think longer than that even.
And yeah, just didn't pan out for you, right? I mean, it was not ideal.
No, not at all.
All right. I don't know. I don't know if it changes much for him next season.
Yeah, that's a tough one to tell. I really don't know either.
There's a $10 million elephant there that's in the room. If Bob continues to play well, Knight's he's not gonna see much of the net. But if Bob falters, then he'll get his chance.
Well, and even then, it's like our friend Ian said. You just follow the money, right? Like Bob's going to get every opportunity to fail, and even when he does fail, he's still going to get another opportunity. So,
yeah.
Okay, Jack Eichel obviously didn't do a whole heck of a lot. 22 points, 12 goals. I mean, he's on a 55-point pace, which is fine, but given that it's Jack Eichel, you expect a lot more. That's a far cry from his 94-point pace in 2019-2020.
Yeah. But you kind of have to look at, too, what he was working with, right? So he didn't have Pacioretty and Stone. And when he did have Pacioretty and Stone, he probably had, maybe a total of 70% between the two of them, because there's no way Stone is healthy, and I don't think Pacioretty is 100% either. I think they were band-aiding and gluing them together and sticking them out there. I don't think.
Well, and sorry, Bruce, they looked like they weren't playing him much with Pacioretty and Stone either.
They needed someone to put the puck in the net because nobody was doing it.
They kept playing him with Nicholas Roy, and I think Marchessault was who he played a lot of time with, actually.
Yeah. And then he saw some time with Marchessault and Carlson as well. They moved Carlson to the wing. He played a little bit with Stone and Pacioretty, but they have so many issues. And I didn't look at their availability to see what. Nothing stood out injury-wise. At least they weren't saying anything anyway. So guess we'll find out in the next little while how bad. Maybe we will or won't find out how bad Pacioretty and Stone are hurt, or what they say.
Yeah.
But
I'd say they probably keep it quiet, but who knows?
yeah,
I think we'll see better stuff from Eichel next year, right? Just another off season to get healthy and get acclimated to the situation in Vegas, and they get their cap situation sorted out. And
I took a look. Even with the players they have signed currently, they're already over the salary cap for next year. So they'll get 10% more here, right, till the season starts. But even then, they're still over the salary cap. So they've got to do something, and they can't even sign their RFAs without making a move. So
it's comical.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what goes on there, and it'll be curious to see too is Vegas going to see this as a one-off, or are they going to take the opportunity here to make bigger changes than just that? Foley has shown he has no patience. So
and he's been given the green light by ownership too, right, to pretty much do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
but they got to sort out what are they going to do in goal? Are they bringing back Thompson and Leonard again next year? Obviously that's a serviceable tandem.
I would say so, because you look at Leonard's health this year, right? And Thompson did well in taking his spot, right? Brossoit was not really that great, and then he was hurt at the end of the season. Yep. But I think so, yeah. You're going to run with, I say you run with Leonard and Thompson. You'll give Leonard the opportunity to do the majority of the starts, and then if injuries creep back in, you've got someone that can step in and take the load here. Like the last quarter of the season, Thompson played really well, considering he played practically every game.
I would say you might see more of a 60-40 split next year, just to keep Leonard fresh.
Yeah, it'll be close to 50-50, I think. And then if Leonard's can stay healthy, he'll get more of the starts.
But I mean, he'll be your playoff starter, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's healthy.
Unless Thompson totally outplays him in the regular season.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens next year with them. There's a lot that can happen between now and the beginning of the season.
There is, yeah. And we'll be keeping tabs on it throughout the off season. Obviously, as things are happening, we'll be reporting on it and talking about it and writing about it. And
the Vegas Golden Knights segment of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. For as much as we can stomach it anyway.
Yep.
Fair or not, this guy is on the Fantasy Hockey Zeros list. That's Cole Caufield. His ADP was 103.1. He actually finished with 20 goals and 40 points, which was 185th in NHL scoring. Basically, the turnaround, and he's on this list mostly for what he did in the first half of the season, right? Got sent down to the AHL. It was rough for him. I actually broke this out. So prior to St. Louis arriving in Montreal, Cole Caufield had 9 points, 1 goal in 31 games played. After St. Louis came in, 35 points, 22 goals in 37 games played. Yeah.
You put that out over a full 82 game season, and he would have had a real shot at the Calder. A real shot at it. If he could have done that consistently through the season, he would have had a shot at it. But for those that toughed it out with him, that maybe hung on to him through the first 31, they were rewarded in the last 37.
Yeah. John, you had a thought there.
Not really a thought. I just can't believe his ADP was that high.
Well, if you recall, end of last season when he did the last,
I don't care.
However many games,
I don't care.
It was like OT game winner after OT game winner, and then he was still pretty good in the playoffs, and
he was making it look easy, right? Like the way they were playing, they just made it look easy.
But
so I'm not surprised his ADP is that high, or was that high, and I think it's going to be that high again.
I wouldn't doubt it I wouldn't doubt it if it is again. I think next year he'll have a better season on a whole.
Definitely.
Just because that first 31 games was that bad.
I think he'll score 40 next year.
Ooh.
Oh, I think
that's a hot take.
Hot take from Tyler.
That's a hot take.
40 goals for Caufield.
Yeah,
That's a hot take.
He will. He'll hit 40 next year.
I mean, in today's NHL, that's not even a big deal anymore because like 30
No.
guys score 40 goals. So,
But
You could put Tyler out there and he'd probably score 2.
probably.
The rest of us would get 10, but
I don't even think I'd get 10 unless something bounced off my face
Hey, they
while I was
still
going by
count.
the net. That'd be about
I can't even say anything. I can't even skate, so.
Me
You're
neither.
gonna
there you go. There it is.
Can't either.
Shoot.
And then
I can play ball hockey though.
sticking with the the Montreal Canadiens theme, we've got Jeff Petrie here as the other guy who was a
Yuck.
giant flop this year.
Yeah.
I was actually really happy to see that.
Okay, elaborate.
I don't like the guy.
Oh.
I hated him in Edmonton, and he went to Montreal, and everyone thought he was great last year, and I was happy he sucked this year.
Well, to be fair to Jeff Petrie,
To be fair.
he did put up 4 consecutive seasons of 40 points or more before
I don't care.
doing absolutely nothing this year.
Don't care. Still happy he sucked.
And he probably won't be back, right? He's requested a trade out of Montreal, and I doubt he's there come September.
Well, he did say in his availability here at the end of the season, he hasn't closed his door on Montreal. So if Montreal wants him back, he would come back. But if the team wants to move on, he won't fight him. He'll be happy to move on.
I think that's probably his political response. That'd be my opinion.
Probably.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to stick around in Montreal. You're gonna lose your number one goaltender. You're rolling next year currently with Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault and a pretty depleted decor.
I think
And
they're
Shane
going
Wright.
with just
And potentially Shane Wright.
And maybe even Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Ooh.
Is there rumors of him going to Montreal?
Maybe.
There is now.
We kind of alluded to Winnipeg with the Hellebuck thing, but I think they have to be on this list too as the Winnipeg Jets, right? They were a pretty big disappointment this season.
Yep, the whole team.
yeah.
And like Wheeler, Scheifele, I don't know who else you don't see back, but I like do those guys get moved, right? I think Scheifele probably gets moved at a certain point.
And there's lots of talk that Scheifele has played his last game in Winnipeg.
They got to shake it up at some point, right? They
it's-
just haven't had enough success there to keep doing what they're doing.
Watch, he's going to go to Vegas.
I forget which podcast I was listening to. Oop. Sorry.
He's not going to Vegas.
Hey,
Come
good.
on.
Who knows?
Unless Vegas throws back a couple players, maybe they'll give him Max Pacioretty and
Vegas will trade Eichel for Scheifele.
oh jeez. Okay, unless you guys have anything else, I think that does it for Fantasy Hockey Heroes and Zeros.
Yeah.
All right. Since I passed the buck last week, I'll do the ad read this week and spare you, Tyler.
What a relief.
As a member of the Hockey Podcast Network, the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast is a proud partner of DraftKings. Hockey fans, the pursuit for the Stanley Cup is on, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has an unbelievable offer for the most exciting playoffs in sports. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what, win or lose. Looking to turn a small bet into a big payday during playoffs? With DraftKings same-game parlays, you can do just that. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more. It's your shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And as we've said in the past, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER and a number of other different telephone numbers or text lines. We're going to include all that information in the show notes. Tyler walked away, but I was going to ask him about his gambling addiction this week.
Maybe he's on the phone.
Yeah, every time we do DraftKings, he's like, "Hey, I got to call my bookie," and then he disappears for 5 minutes. Oh, there he is.
He's setting up his parlays for the week.
Hey, Polly Parlay.
Hi.
Hi. We were just talking. How'd your week go?
I didn't even place a single bet all week.
Not even a single bet.
Wow.
You cleaning up your act or what?
No, absolutely not. I was just busy.
All right, fair enough. Well, that's probably a nice segue into our last segment here, playoff predictions. We're going to just do a quick breakdown on each series. We'll go through it. We've got a probability to win included in here. We've got DraftKings odds. So if you want to check out all the notes and information, fantasyhockeyhacks.com, check it out. The probability to win is from The Athletic. I actually just borrowed some numbers from Dom Lasician in his series previews. And then all the odds are from DraftKings. So just so you know, that's where the information came from. So kicking things off here in the Eastern Conference, we've got the Washington Capitals as the wild card 2 against the Florida Panthers, who finished in the top spot in the Atlantic. The regular season series, Florida won that 2-1. They're scoring at an average of 4.14 goals per game on the season, 24% power play. They are the heavy favorite in this series at minus 340 on the money line. If you're a bold gambler like Tyler potentially, plus 260 for the Caps. The probability to win, according to The Athletic and Dom Lasician, is 84% for the Panthers and 16% for the Capitals. So we'll just kind of go around. We're going to include our own brackets. We'll get those out there, our picks for you guys at some point, but Tyler hasn't done his yet. So we'll just go through this for the moment. Who are you guys taking here? We'll start with John.
Florida in 5.
Florida in 5. All right, I like it. I actually, you know what? I got the same thing. I got Florida in 5.
Me too.
That was my dilemma too. Does Washington actually win a game in the series? It's like, okay, yeah, we'll give them 1. So yeah, it's me too. Florida in 5.
Yeah, I'll give them 1 because I don't think the sweep happens very often, and they've still got some good pieces on that team. Tyler, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I had the same thing. Florida in 5.
The goaltending's just so horrible in Washington.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Backstrom's not himself. Kuznets have had a good regular season. I don't know if he does it in the playoffs too. So,
and they don't have that Barry Trotz defense like the Islanders do, right? So you can't, Yeah. Okay. Good stuff there. Next up here, Tampa Bay Lightning, third in the Atlantic versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, who finished second. This one should be a good series. The regular season series was actually tied at 2 games apiece. Goals for 3.79 for Toronto, 27.2% power play. Their power play was great, and their PK was at 82.4%, was pretty effective as well. DraftKings odds, you've got minus 120 for Toronto, plus 100 for Tampa Bay. Probability to win, according to The Athletic, is 62% for Toronto and 38% for Tampa Bay. I'm going to check that, make sure that's accurate. But we'll go in reverse order. Tyler, who's your pick in that series?
Tampa in 7.
Tampa in 7. I've got Toronto in 7, actually. I think just based on, I know Tampa's looking really good right now.
Just
but
like
Vasilevsky right now is a concern for me.
More than Campbell?
Right?
Yeah, I'm not saying but I just think this might be the year that Toronto finally gets over the hump in the first round. And
I think they had
I think fatigue comes into play.
Happening.
I think fatigue comes into play at a certain point.
I think fatigue comes into play in the conference final for Tampa, and I don't think it's in the first round against Toronto. I think just the goaltending is a massive check mark for Tampa. Campbell, sure, he's had a good regular season, except for that one little stint there. But
yeah, Campbell is under an incredible amount of pressure going into these playoffs because of last season.
Sure he is.
They're basically piling the city on his shoulders, and they're expecting him to carry it. And my thing for me was, it's like, is Toronto going to win a game in this series? I think the pressure on Toronto is so much that I think these guys are.
I think the depth.
Like, there is so much pressure on them. In Tampa, there is no pressure on Tampa, even though they're the defending champions.
I think the
series.
depth too.
All the pressure is on Toronto, and if Toronto loses the first game or they lose the first 2 games, I don't think they'll be able to recover from it. Not against Tampa. Like, I've got Tampa in 6, and I think I'm being generous.
Okay. I think the depth in Tampa is going to score, and in Toronto, I don't think it's going to score. I think it's going to be up to Matthews and Marner, and I don't think they're going to get it done.
John?
I like how Bruce said Tampa in 6 and he's being generous because I went Tampa in 5.
Okay, yeah, and I'll agree. Like Tyler, of course, the check mark for in goal goes to Vasilevsky, but he hasn't been himself either. Like he's not 940 Vasilevsky right now, right?
Yeah.
No, but he you look at his track record in the playoffs compared to Campbell's.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think too for
like,
for teams that are, I mean, they're just getting through the regular season just to get through it, and
that's fair. That's
even
fair.
Carolina had like a bad month this last month, and
so we were talking about this earlier, Ty, before you jumped on. I sent that article to you guys earlier from the NHL media relations account, and they're talking about how important it is for a team to go into the playoffs hot. And the number, I'll have to go back and reference it, but it was 6 or 7 of the last Stanley Cup champions came into the playoffs hot. So Tampa was one of those teams they mentioned specifically. And then they talked about some of the teams this year that have been on a roll going in, and Minnesota was one, St. Louis was one, Edmonton actually was one. So that does play a factor, I guess, going in hot. But you're right, too, is a lot of teams, they coast, right? They coast going into, especially in the East where things are locked up.
Yeah.
So.
And Tampa's got lots of experience with that, right? Because you look at how they went into that, again, in that one where they blew everybody away. They won the President's Cup, and all of a sudden Columbus blows them away in like the first round. And that's where Cooper came out and said after this, as long as we get into the playoffs, we don't care as long as we're in. And once we're in, it's game on, right? And you look at what they've done to the few teams here the last few weeks of the season. They've annihilated teams.
Well,
the past few weeks,
the
past
Toronto
couple of weeks here. So they're
a couple weeks ago. So
Toronto's going to be a speed bump on the way through to the next round.
Well, you absolutely could be right, Bruce. I just find it interesting. They've actually got Toronto list. DraftKings has Toronto listed as minus 120 favorites in this series.
That'll probably change by the end of the first period. First game.
Okay.
DraftKings bracket change.
All right. Well, there you go. I took Toronto. We'll see. I'm probably super out to lunch, but that's okay. Next up here, Boston Bruins wildcard 1 versus Carolina, who finished first in the Metro. Carolina won that regular season series 3-0. 116 points in the season for Carolina, 3.38 goals for. They win that category. Power play's better, PK's better. DraftKings odds actually, though, have this series pretty even at minus 115 on the money line for Carolina and minus 105 for Boston. Probability to win, according to The Athletic, is actually 51% in favor of Boston and 49% for Carolina. So it's basically a coin flip. Which way are you guys going? John, we'll start with you.
Carolina in 6.
Carolina in 6. I took Boston in 6.
Ooh. Yeah, it's tough either way. Like, it could be either.
I think the odds would be different if they knew Anderson was going to be in net.
I was just going to say.
I think that's why you see the probability and the odds so close to even, because Carolina is going into this without Anderson.
And you look at how Allmark's played and how Swayman's played for stretches too. So you've got two very capable goaltenders.
Yeah, and in Carolina you got Ranta and the kid, right? Yeah. So it's like for me, I took Carolina in 6. I still have confidence that they'll still do it, but that's most likely why everything is so close.
Okay. Tyler, what's your take on it?
I was trying to log into my thing to see what I did. Carolina in 7.
Carolina in 7. Okay, there you go. All right. Next one here. This one should be interesting. Pittsburgh finishing 3rd in the Metro versus the Rangers, who finished 2nd. The Rangers actually won that series 3 out of 4. Pretty close in the standings here. 108 points for New York, 101 for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh actually is scoring more, 3.26 goals for per game on the season. Of course, New York is letting in fewer at 2.49 with Shesterkin in goal. They've got the better power play in New York at 25.5%, better PK in Pittsburgh at 85%. DraftKings odds they're both set at -110. And the probability to win, according to Dom Lucian, is 56% for Pittsburgh and 44% for New York. Tyler, I know you're still working through it, but I'm going to start with you here, buddy. So who are you taking, Pittsburgh or New York?
New York in 6.
I've got New York in 7.
Shesterkin.
Pittsburgh in 7.
Pittsburgh in 7.
I've got New York in 6, and Shesterkin's going to stand on his head.
Yeah, I think that's the X factor here is Shesterkin. He's just going to...
Jarry's going to do another first pass out of the zone, and New York will be just...
Well, they're not even going to have him... he's still day-to-day. I think he's going to miss games 1 and 2 is what they said, right? So you're starting with DeSmith in goal, at least for a couple games. There's no contest. You talk about check marks, Tyler, for in goal. It's Shesterkin all day.
Yeah.
I mean, Crosby could do Crosby things and surprise us all, but realistically, I think it's going to be New York here.
I think New York, too, just plays at a different speed than what Pittsburgh's going to be able to.
Yeah. Okay, there it is.
I think the Rangers have learned some lessons from last year.
Yeah. All right, that's the Eastern Conference. Let's move out west, starting with Nashville and Colorado. So Nashville wound up as wildcard 2 and Colorado as first in the Central. I have to say, I'm a little annoyed that Nashville let the Yotes off the hook the other night. I really, really wanted to see a Nashville-Calgary series. Like that game we saw the other night, I don't know if you guys watched any of it, where Lucic blew up Duchene, but it was like somebody would get hit and then the other team would just return with another massive hit, and it just went on like that for 5 minutes. And like those are two really physical, loaded teams. Would have been a great playoff series, but anyway, here we are, Nashville and Colorado. Nashville actually won that series 3-1 this year, which I found surprising.
Wow.
Looking at the standings, it's not really close. 119 points for Colorado, 97 for Nashville. 3.79 goals for per game for Colorado, only allowing 2.82. The power play is actually better in Nashville at 24.6%, just marginally, but it is. 79.2% on the PK for Colorado. The DraftKings odds, Colorado is a massive, massive favorite on the money line at -650. Nashville is +450, and this might actually be, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be your best bet. If you're looking for a bit of a risky play, for a first round upset at +450, would you put a little sprinkle on that for Nashville? Like, I mean,
I'd sprinkle it.
You sprinkle it.
Sprinkle on there.
John's like, absolutely not.
Nope. I wouldn't touch that one.
If Saros is in net, I'd consider it, but with Rittich in net, not a chance.
That is a valid point, Bruce. I mean, I'll give that to you. But here's the
Kemper's
thing:
going to pull his groin in the
Nashville is by far the most physical team in the NHL this year. They have the most fighting majors, the most hits. They've got a great defense. Even if Rittich is like average, if he's like 9, 10, 9-15, and that might be a big ask from him, but I think in a playoff series, Nashville could probably wear it on Colorado. And if it goes 7, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying at +450, I'm willing to put a little bit of money on it.
I'm going with the Daryl Sutter quote. It's going to be a waste of 8 days for Nashville. They will be done in 4.
Okay, so that's your pick officially is 4. They're going to sweep Nashville?
That's my yeah.
Okay. For the record, I gotta where did I leave off here? I've got Colorado in 6 actually.
I went 5.
I got Colorado.
I did a lot of 5s.
Colorado in 6.
They're going to win that series. There's no question. But I'm just saying at +450. That's pretty juicy.
I'd put a sprinkle on it.
Put a little sprinkle on it. Come on, Bruce. Risk it to get the biscuit, man.
You gotta.
Like I said, if it was Saros, yes. Not Saros, no.
If it was Saros, you wouldn't get +450 though. See?
No, you'd get +250.
No, probably
+200
wouldn't.
probably. And I guess the probability to win, according to Dom Lucian, is 92% for Colorado and 8% for Nashville. So
I think that's why it goes 6 though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a sweep because it's everybody's expecting him to roll over him, and I don't think that's going to happen.
So the other thing, too, that was in that article I read, it was just basically talking about the playoffs and some of the trends and stats and some interesting things. The regular season series apparently does matter. It does play a small factor, especially early on in the playoffs. And for Nashville to win 3 or 4 games against Colorado in the regular season, like, that's got to be a little concerning in the back of your minds if you're Colorado. Like, and talking about pressure, Bruce, all the pressure's on Colorado here.
That is true. That is very true.
If they go out again in the first round with the roster they have,
yeah, it could be ugly in Colorado too.
And what if Kemper goes down? What if all of a sudden Kemper goes out with injury in Game 3?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's
just a little sprinkle. It's a little sprinkle.
Yeah,
that's
a little
it.
sprinkle.
All right, St. Louis and Minnesota is the next one here, and this is probably going to be the most exciting matchup in the first round. This one's basically a coin flip. I mean, not according to the odds or to The Athletic, but third in the Central for St. Louis, second in the Central for Minnesota. St. Louis actually swept the season series at 3-0.
Those games were close, though. I think 2 were overtime, and 1 was 1 goal in regulation.
Yeah.
They are the favorite. Minnesota, they are the favorites in this series. DraftKings odds are minus 150. It's plus 130 for St. Louis. Probability to win, according to The Athletic, is 75% for Minnesota and 25% for St. Louis. But if you look at the numbers here, other than points, St. Louis has scored more goals marginally. They've let in fewer at 2.86 versus 3.06 for Minnesota. The power play is better in St. Louis at 26.5% versus 21 for Minnesota, and the PK is better in St. Louis at 84% compared to 75.8% in Minnesota. So I'm very curious, Bruce. I'm going to start with you on this one because I know how much you love Minnesota and Kirill Kaprizov and all those guys there. So what's your take on it?
Yeah. I've got Minnesota in 7.
All right.
Is what mine is, and I think every game is going to be a 1-goal game. I think it's going to be that tight.
Okay.
This is possibly, like you mentioned, Colorado and in Nashville being a tough series. I think this series is going to be a war.
I agree, totally. I've got St. Louis in 7, and it's honestly, I think it's going to go to 7 games, and it's going to be a coin flip.
Exactly. It's a lot closer, I think, than what the odds in that show here. Exactly. It's going to be exactly that, a coin flip.
This is another one at plus 130. I think I'd throw some money on this one too if I were betting.
Yep.
Because I do think St. Louis could win that series.
Yeah, it's a coin flip. Yeah.
Tyler, you're kind of, are you convinced? Where are you going to this one?
I got Minnesota in 6.
Minnesota in 6.
Too fast.
Okay, and what's the difference for you in that series?
They play the game at a different speed than St. Louis does. I think they're going to end up on the power play, and I think they're going to score lots of goals doing that. And I think they have a little bit more scoring depth top to bottom than St. Louis does.
Well, you got guys like Fiala and Boldy and Gaudreau. Like that for a time was a third line. I think they've moved kind of more to a second line now, but yeah, they've got lots of depth there.
I think Boldy just based on his size, I think he could play in the series and be a difference maker too. So
totally,
and
definitely.
We didn't look at any props. I could have pulled up some props for this series too, but
they have Fleury.
So that's the other thing too. Who's going to be the starting goaltender?
I think it's going to be
Minnesota.
I would say based on the way they played the last week here of the season, it'll be Fleury.
Oh,
okay. So
I was talking about St.
I think
Louis.
Fleury will start.
You were talking about St. Louis. Okay, so let's start in Minnesota. So you're saying Fleury, Bruce.
I think so.
John, what's your take on it?
I'm going to say it's going to be Fleury.
Okay.
There was a tweet today where the coach said they haven't made it. Both guys look really good, but the decision's easy or something like that. Something along those lines. So obviously it means Fleury.
Yeah. No, I think Fleury starts. That makes sense to me. And you're saying Binnington in St. Louis, you think?
I think so. I think they were trying to kind of feed him starts at the end of the year. I mean, they won a Stanley Cup with him. You're going to start with him.
He actually played well, like down the stretch. And you're right. They were feeding him starts. I was getting quite annoyed because I had Huso in the one league. and they're playing Binnington more down the stretch for sure.
But that's another reason why I like
Okay.
Minnesota, because I think they were trying to force feed Binnington to be the guy, and I don't think it's going to happen for him. So.
Okay, so Tyler, you've got Minnesota in 6. Bruce, you've got Minnesota in 7. John, what's your prediction?
Minnesota in 6.
Minnesota in 6. Okay, so I'm the lone guy taking St. Louis in 7 here. All right, let's move on to the Dallas Stars, who are wild card 1 against Calgary Flames, who won the Pacific. If you look at the numbers, it's basically they're a heavy favorite for Calgary, minus 300 for the DraftKings odds, compared to plus 235 for the Dallas Stars. I would not put a sprinkle on this one.
Nope.
You guys heard me a few weeks back say I think Calgary can win the Cup this year. Makes me sick to say it, but they've got a good club. 76% probability for the Flames to win versus 24 for Dallas. Goals for, goals against, power play percentage, and PK percentage are all favored by Calgary. John, we'll start off with you. What's your prediction for this series?
Calgary in 5.
Calgary in 5. I've got Calgary in 6. Bruce?
I have Calgary in 5. And that was, for me, I think it's being generous. I think Dallas is going to be a speed bump for Calgary.
Okay.
Calgary in 5, and I think it'll probably actually be 4.
Okay. So we could see a couple sweeps in the first round, you guys are thinking. And last but not least, or best for last, however you want to phrase it, the Los Angeles Kings, 3rd in the Pacific, versus the Edmonton Oilers, who finished 2nd. Regular season series, the Oilers won 3-1. I think all 3 wins came with Jay Woodcroft behind the bench. 104 points to 99. Edmonton scored more goals, has a better special teams, 26% on the power play and 79% on the PK versus 16 and 76 for the LA Kings. DraftKings odds are set at minus 250 for the Oilers and plus 200 for the Kings. Probability to win, according to The Athletic, is 68% for Edmonton and 32% for Los Angeles. For me, I actually think Edmonton's going to scare us a little bit. I've got this game going to 7 with Edmonton taking it. On paper, it probably shouldn't really be that close, but Jonathan Quick, if he decides to show up and play the way he can, I know their defense isn't great, especially with Doughty out of the lineup, but they've got some guys that can score, and they do play with some jam throughout the lineup. So I'm going Edmonton in 7. Tyler, what's your take?
I've got Edmonton in 6. I think they probably should beat them in 5, but I think it'll be 6. I think LA is just happy to be there, and I think Edmonton has, they've got a job to do. So I think it's two totally different mindsets, and I think 6 is probably an accurate number.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just, with Edmonton, I never know.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you know what should happen, but then sometimes that doesn't happen. So
LA, too, has been kind of stumbling the way last couple of weeks into the playoffs. There was a chance that they weren't even going to make it, so whereas Edmonton's been on the opposite end of it. So.
No, Edmonton's been cruising. I would agree. It wouldn't shock me to see them win it in 5. Like, it would not shock me at all, but I just... Anyway. Bruce, what's your take?
I pretty much mirror Tyler's sentiments exactly. It'll be Edmonton in 6. I don't know if we'll see a scare at all, but I think Edmonton is going to very much remember what happened last year and make sure that that's not going to happen this year. And I think Woodcroft will make sure that that mindset stays. And I think 6, like Tyler said, I think 6 could end up being generous. He said LA is just happy to be there and the Oilers are on a mission. So I think it'll go 6, but it may not.
Okay. John?
I went Edmonton in 6 as well.
All right. So that's kind of every series. Let's just do a really quick wrap-up on your brackets here. So it sounds like we've all got Edmonton going on to the second round against Calgary. We're going to see the Battle of Alberta in the second round, hopefully. We can only hope. Because that might be the best series of the playoffs if it happens.
Edmonton in 7.
Yep.
Okay, and I've got Edmonton moving on too, actually, in that series.
Yeah, me too.
I think if Edmonton can get to the second round against Calgary, and if they beat Calgary in the second round, they're going supernova.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got Edmonton winning the cup, honestly, if they can get past Calgary. I know I sound like a giant homer.
We all are. I have them too.
We all
actually have them losing to Tampa, but that's fine.
Okay, so let's go to the other side. Sounds like everyone's got Colorado moving on, and against either Minnesota or St. Louis. I'm the only one that picked St. Louis, but you guys got Minnesota there. You guys, I'm assuming, have Colorado moving to the conference final.
I took Minnesota.
Yep. You took Minnesota.
Like you were saying with Minnesota, Colorado, or Colorado, Nashville, sorry. How physical Nashville's going to play. I think they're going to beat them up, and I think Minnesota's going to finish them off.
Okay, so you've got Minnesota in the final. Bruce, John, you guys got, who's your Western Conference final?
I got Colorado.
I had Colorado and Edmonton in the final.
And I've got that too. I've got Edmonton, Colorado in the Western final. So Tyler, you've got Minnesota and Edmonton, and you got Edmonton moving on, or Minnesota? Okay, so I've got Edmonton in the Cup final this year too. John, Bruce, what's your take on it?
Colorado.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Colorado.
Okay, so you guys got Colorado. Honestly, the way they played in the regular season, it was a coin flip. Like, Edmonton lost 2 games in the overtime playoff or series, or overtime that they shouldn't have, at least in one case. And and then they won in convincing fashion in that third game. So anyway, I've got Edmonton go to the Cup final. Let's go back over to the East here quick. So then, where do we end up? Who do you guys have in the second round?
Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, Tampa, Florida. I think that was kind of the consensus from you guys, right? It was Tampa, Florida.
Tampa wins.
Florida wins.
Okay, so Tyler, you got Tampa going on to the East
I got
final.
Tampa. I just think they've
John, you've
been
got
there too many times.
Okay, John, you've got Florida moving on to the East final.
I got Florida.
And Bruce?
I'm torn. I haven't picked yet.
Okay.
What do you mean you haven't picked yet?
I'm leaning towards Tampa.
I've got Florida in the East final on the one side. So for me, that's happening. That's going on. On the other side of that bracket, so who do you guys have playing Florida or Tampa in the East final? New York? I've got New York there as well.
I put Carolina.
Carolina as well.
I think they'll have, if they can get past the first round, I think they'll have Anderson back for the second.
I still like.
Yeah.
And I think he'll outduel Shesterkin.
Still like Shesterkin.
Yeah.
I like Shesterkin, and I like that they're just young and not supposed to be there. No pressure.
Well, and Kopp, Kopp was a massive ad for them at the deadline.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so who do you guys have in the Cup final then? So it's
Edmonton, Tampa.
I've got Edmonton, Florida playing in the Cup final.
Edmonton, Tampa.
Edmonton, Tampa.
Colorado, Florida.
Okay. And Bruce, you're still deciding?
It's Colorado versus Florida or Tampa. I just haven't made that.
Click on one, for God's sake.
Yet there.
Just click on it.
Figure it out.
Okay, and then John, sounds like you've got your
I'm leaning towards Tampa.
Okay. John, you've got it figured out. Who's winning the Cup this year?
Colorado is winning the Cup this year.
Okay. Tyler?
Tampa.
If they're doing the three-peat, hey? Are you putting some money on that, or is that just your gut feel?
It was late last night when I was putting this together. But it came down. I had Edmonton, and then I had Tampa, and I don't think Edmonton. I think they're going to do the. It was nice to be here, but we're not ready yet. Let's come back next year.
Okay. They'll be the Pittsburgh Penguins of 2008. Okay. I mean, I hate that. I really don't like that at all. But you're probably accurate. That sounds right to me. Bruce, who's winning the Cup this year?
For me, it'll be the winner of whoever wins the Tampa Florida series.
Okay, so it's coming out of the East this year.
I'm leaning towards Tampa. So based on what I'd say right now, I'd say it's Tampa.
Okay,
they'll three-peat.
And like the giant homer I am, I took Edmonton winning the Cup this year.
Nice hat.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, well that does it. This has been a long episode. It was a lot of fun though. I like doing these playoff prediction type episodes. I think they're always fun. A little bit more of a sports betting slant to it this time around, and I think, Tyler, you're okay with that if we do some more sports betting on the show, obviously.
Absolutely.
With we're partnered with DraftKings. I think Bruce and I have talked about that lots too. We want to start doing some more live streams or something, just talking about some DFS stuff and some sports bets. Maybe we'll get some parlays going. I don't know.
Idea.
Well, yeah, we'll sort that out. So definitely some more sports betting content coming from us. John, you're gonna have to get off your wallet. I know it's really hard for you as a price conscious Mennonite, I guess I'll call you. Yeah, so there it is. Just one last time, really quickly, thank you to everyone that followed along throughout the regular season. This is our first crack at it, our first regular season fantasy hockey coverage deal, doing the podcast. We've had a lot of fun. More to come. And you know, guys, I didn't tell you, but earlier we had probably 4 or 5 or 6 people reach out and say, hey, like, thank you so much for the work you guys did on the podcast this year. Helped me in my league. I won my league. We had lots of really positive feedback, and so thank you to those people. Shandell, Ryan, Jonathan. There's a few other people. I'm sorry if I missed you, but thank you for reaching out on Twitter. Really appreciate that. And other than that, we will be back next Sunday with some more content, some more probably just playoff coverage, DFS, sports betting. But if you guys want to hear anything specific, if you have any show ideas for us, submit your input, fantasyhockeyhacks@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter at FHHacks and on Instagram at fantasyhockeyhacks. Be sure to check out the website, fantasyhockeyhacks.com. And I guess we're going to have some more guests coming up too, guys. We're going to line up some stuff and try and bring on some other people who know more about hockey than we do.
Good.
And with that, we'll sign off for another week. Thanks, guys. It was a fun one.
Shout out, Charlie.
Good night.
Bye, Felicia.
Take care.